Alright, we're getting ready to remove an upper bolt to the transaxle or transmission, whatever you want to call it. There's a bolt right there on the other side here. That's where the starter was, and we got those out. So I'm going to remove that bolt while I can, while the motor is everything's still mounted together. And then we've got some others on the underneath side, but we also have this mount here, which is going to have to come off eventually. And there's a mount in the back. However, the engine's got to be supported because that's your motor mount and transmission mounts all in one. So after I get this bolt out, I've got to push the car back up into place where I'm going to actually be working on it, jacking it up. So I've got to prepare the area before I do that. Since it's outside in the rocks, I've got to make sure everything's picked up and big rocks out of the way and everything like that. But the next thing I have to do is actually take the tire off. And it's only saying take this one off. I may end up taking both off and changing brakes at the same time. So we'll just see. Anyway, that's kind of the plan for today. It's kind of a rainy day, so I'm not done a whole lot today. I'm not sure if I videoed this clip here. This thing here goes back down on the transmission, down there. Bolts right down there on that bolt. There you can see it. I didn't take any clips out on that because I think I just got it up out of the way there where it won't be in the way. So anyway, that's the plan for the day. If I get further, I'll do a little bit more videoing. Okay, I want to make note that I took this bolt out. You can see it. It holds this whole bracket on. I took the bracket off. I took the bolt out, but I rethreaded it just a little bit back into the transmission, or back into the transaxle. It actually bolts it to the engine. Anyway, I just rethreaded it back in there just a little bit. As you can see, it's just stuck in there. I don't want to take it completely out because I don't want to lose it or, you know, forget where it goes. Once I get the rest of the bolts loose to the transaxle, I will probably take them out and put them in a cup labeled what they need to be so I know where they go back. So anyway, it's kind of important that you know where every bolt goes. So that's why I'm making this video, to make sure that we put things back where they go. It's easy to get things mixed up, especially if you're going to take this apart and not get it back together right away, which is probably going to be my case. So anyway, we've got that done. That bracket's loose and it's just sitting there. It'll be out of the way, just sitting right there. Got a lot of wires plugged on it and everything else, so we're just going to leave her right there. So next project is cleaning up my area, moving the car up, and then taking the front tire off. We'll see if I can get that done today. Alright, we've got the car into place where we're going to be working on it for probably months. Anyway, we've got the front wheel off of it like they've told me to do. As you can see, it's been a while since I've drove this thing. Pretty rusty. Those are fairly new rotors, I believe, but they just need cleaned up. I need to check the brakes and everything. Anyway, I've got the ladder jacks there underneath, up on the front of the frame, and I've got two of these jacks on each side, one on each side. It's just for extra support. It's really not holding anything. It's just in case it falls. But I just have those under there until I can put some wood logs or something under there that would catch this car in case it falls. So you never want to get under the thing and count on machines and things like that to hold it. You need to make sure it's secure. Got the back wheels chalked front and back on each side. This thing doesn't have an emergency brake in it, so I couldn't put a brake on. Anyway, I've got to take the rotor off and hang the caliper up there on the spring, get it up out of the way. So that's got to come off, and then bolts are really rusty. So I've got to take all that apart, take the tie rod end off, I guess. I've got quite a bit to do, so to get everything loose. So this ought to be a pretty fun job. I've sprayed in bolts. I probably will quit for today, let them soak real good, and so they'll come loose so I won't break any bolts. So I believe I have to take the fender skirting off under here, black plastic skirting. I have to get it off, and I usually always break bolts doing that too, so I may have to buy some new bolts and stuff, who knows. Anyway, making a little bit of progress, so that's what counts. Alright, we're getting ready to take the caliper off, brake caliper, and looks like there's a bracket right there I've got to take off. It's holding the brake hose. The instructions also say I need to take the tie rod end off right here, or just undo it. And then eventually I'll be taking the rotor off. So now I've got to take it loose right here and take that off. So it'll all be coming off there here real soon. That's my next job. We'll do a little bit more video and after that if I get that done. Really cold day out here, wind's blowing like crazy. Sun's shining, but it's about, I don't know, it's only supposed to be like 30 degrees today, so it's pretty chilly. So it may limit how long I can stay out at each time. So anyway, we'll get started. Alright, this has been one of the hardest jobs yet. It took me forever. It probably took 2 hours to get this bolt undone right here. That bolt, which went in the bottom hole right there. That bottom hole, that bolt was just seized in there. It just would not hardly come out, and I got it out without breaking it. However, when I was taking the brake line off, that little bracket right there, the bolt broke. As you can see, the bolt's still in there. I'll have to drill that out and put a new bolt in it. All it does is holds that line. But to do it right, I really need to. Anyway, I've tied the caliper up into here. I took the caliper off and I got it tied up to the spring up there just to get it up out of the way. The instructions had me taking the tie rod end off here. That thing will not come off. It just spins in there. I don't have the tools to get it out. What I'm going to do is just swing this whole thing out of the way and not take that off, and maybe it won't get in my way. So we'll see. I'm going to take the shaft loose here into the transmission. You can see it kind of under there, right there in the middle of the screen. That's my next project. See how I got to take that out. I'm not sure if it just pops out, or I'm not sure what goes on with that just yet. So I'll have to see what else. I know I need to take off the skirting and stuff, so that might be my next project. We'll see. Anyway, it's still just freezing cold out here with wind. Temperature's not that bad. It's just the wind is so cold that you can't hardly do anything. So I'm gonna quit for a while, take a break, and then I'll get back to it. So see you next time. Alright, I've decided to do just a little bit more work. I've actually pulled the drive shaft, the driver's side drive shaft, out of the transaxle. I had to take all this loose to do it, and it just slipped out. So I've covered up, because they said it takes special grease. So I've covered up all the openings there. Now I have a drive shaft on the other side that'll pop right out when I pull the transmission. So when I go to do that, I'll have to cover those up too before I get too far. I have to pull it back probably a couple inches, maybe not that much, and pull the other drive shaft so I don't have to take the wheel and everything off the other side. At least that's my plan. So anyway, I've got that done. I took the plastic shroud off. Now you can see the transaxle in here. Well, yeah, there you go. Anyway, so that gives me a little bit more access. I've got quite a bit more to do. Got to support the engine, take the transmission and engine mounts loose. So I'll have to have both the engine and transmission supported at that point. And I got to make sure I can actually roll the transmission backwards. So I'll have to have a solid board to put my jack on. Anyway, that's how far I've gotten today. Alright, I've got the engine jacked up today with this makeshift stuff. It's jacked up against the oil pan, so I had to do this and kind of bypass the muffler right there so that I could put some support under the motor. I haven't taken it off of the mounts yet, but I'm getting ready to take it off the mounts. I've had to wait about a week or so for the weather to calm down to get this done. I've actually drained the transmission fluid. I don't know if you can see or not. Yeah, it's hard to see. Anyway, I've drained the transmission fluid, and there's a plug over there to drain it. And I've got the motor supported. I've got the axles out, as you can see over here. Now I don't have the other axle out yet, but I thought I'd wait to do that all at once when I kind of pull the transmission. I think if I pull it back about 1.5 inches, it will the axle will pop out. So at that time I'll do the same. I'll put some plastic over it to protect the grease and all that stuff. So anyway, that's where we're at today. I know this is makeshift, but this is the best I can do, and it'll hold it. It's got to hold the engine up because there's a front and back mount here, up in here. I think you can see it right there. I've got to take that out, and the one right, I believe it's right here. I got to, hard for me to get in there. It's right here. I got to take this out. So, and that will loosen the back of the engine, making it go up and down, so I've got to support it. So right now we're getting ready to take the bell housing off here. Well, the plate, the protector plate, it's just protecting, keeping dirt out of it, out of the bell housing, which is this. Anyway, so we're getting ready to take that plate out. Okay, I've got the motor mounts out, at least the front and rear. As you can see right there, I've taken the mount out that marries the two together. That was the rear one. I had to get clear underneath to get that out there, and the bolts were really rusty. Now this front one, I don't know if you can see down in there or not. I got it out too, and it was unbelievably hard to get to and get the bolts out, and they were, as I said before, they were really rusty, and but I got it out. I've got a big mount right here that I've got to get out, and this mount here, I'm going to actually have to take it loose. If you can see that bolt right there in the center of the screen, there's 4 of those bolts, I believe, that's going to have to come out. Of course, I'll have to take the center bolt out there. It goes clear through the rubber piece there. I'll probably actually have to take it off of the transmission just to get it out of the way. But anyway, I've got to go through the fender well, and I'll show you here, to get to these bolts. Let me see if I can see it. Yeah, see the caps there? I've got to take those caps out to get to the motor mount bolts, and they are going to be really hard to take out, I bet you, because they're so rusty. So I have sprayed them with WD-40. I'm going to let them sit for a day or so and let it try to loosen up before I try to twist them so I don't break them off. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I've got the engine supported, so, but if it would fall, it's not going to fall with this mount still mounted, but if it would fall, the transmission is just going to probably lay down there on the frame anyway, so it's not going to fall clear out. So anyway, that's where we're at today. So till next time. Alright, so we get started today. I want to go ahead and take these brackets off. If you can see that big bracket right there, part of the motor mount. I'm at least going to take this one off. I don't know about the back one. We've got a back one back in here someplace. It's hard to see. It's down in there somewhere. Yeah, anyway, there's a rear one. It looks just like this front one. I may take those off just to give me a little bit more room to pull the tranny out of it. Getting ready to take that motor mount out. Like I said, we got to go under the fender well to take that out. Anyway, got to get the bolts loose from the transmission first. I'm not sure how many is left. I know there were some down in the bottom or underneath that I've got to take out. I've got most of the top bolts out. I need to get those out before I take the tranny completely loose from the mounts. And also, I've got another boot here. I don't know if we can see it. It's kind of hard to see. Right, almost in the center of the screen. There's a boot right there for the passenger side front axle or drive shaft, whatever you want to call it. I've got to take that boot off. I'm going to do that kind of last before I start to pull the tranny out. That axle will just fall out as I pull the transmission back. However, the boot's going to try to catch it and pull it back. So I've got to pop that boot off, but I don't want to get a bunch of dirt down in it. So it's kind of the last thing to do before I pull this transmission backwards. But I've got quite a bit of bolts to unloosen before I can start pulling the transmission out, and I got to get a jack underneath the transmission, and it's got to be able to roll back and forth. So that may be a hard task on this ground. But anyway, I've got to do that. I've got to make sure that the engine's supported good with the jack and maybe some kind of backup support. The engine can't go very far if it does fall down a little bit, but it's still hooked up to the radiator and all that stuff. And some of the instructions said unhook the radiator and all that, but I didn't want to make a big mess, and I didn't see really why we'd have to unhook that. So at this point, I've not had to unhook the radiator. So anyway, getting ready to take these bolts out. I got to pop these plugs out of here, and then take those loose if they'll come loose. They're really rusty. So see you in the next video. Okay, so far I have actually taken that front bracket off of the motor mount bracket. I've taken it off the transmission here, just so I could gain a little bit of extra room. I don't know if we can see. Kind of hard to see. It was right down in there. Anyway, it opened up a lot of space. I did the same thing in the back. I wasn't going to, but I went ahead and decided to take that out. There you can see a bunch of space now in there. I've got a lot of room to work. I've slipped the boot back. I went ahead and did it. It's still not letting a bunch of dirt in. But there was actually a bolt right over the top of that, and you have to get to it from the underside of the car, underneath the car, and it's bolting through the engine block into the transmission transaxle, whatever you want to call it. And that's one of the back bolts, and in my case it looks like somebody stripped the threads out a little bit, so the bolt wasn't very tight at all. Got one more bolt here down in here to take loose, and then I'll be able to pull the transmission back out of it. I have to actually put the jack underneath the transmission set. I'm getting there with it. Till next time. Alright, we've got the transmission coming out now. However, there's a bracket right here that you can see that has to come off. And hopefully, once that comes off, you can see it's sitting there on the clutch and pressure plate assembly, and it's keeping the transmission from coming out. At least that's one of the things that's keeping it from coming out. But anyway, I wanted to video this to show you how it goes together here, so that I can put it back the proper way. I've already took one bolt out there, as you can see. I'm going to take the other one out. We've got minimal room here to get it in and out. The transmission's got to come back and kind of over this way and down if it's going to come out at all. So it's a really tight fit. It's going to be terribly hard to get it back in if I can get it out. So there we have it. We're getting the thing pulled out. Okay, after a pretty tough time of working this thing around, we have the transmission, transaxle, whatever you want to call it, out of this car. It was a bear to get out. It'd probably been easier to pull the whole engine, because you can't hardly clear the flywheel without taking a lot of stuff off that transmission, like the linkage, support, and brackets and all that. Anyway, there's your passenger side axle, drive shaft, whatever you want to call it, with the bag over it. It's all greased up, so I don't want the grease all dirty. There's where your starter fits in. Anyway, we had to actually turn that transaxle completely sideways to get it out. Had to raise the engine and lower the engine, and the engine's being held up by that jack under there, you see, and then it pivots on that mount right there. I'll come over here to show you. I didn't take that one loose. It's just pivoting up and down on that mount. The other two mounts back here, of course, that we had to take those loose, and then there was a mount right in here that had to come off. But the transmission is just, you can't hardly get it in and out. And I had to actually take the clutch and pressure plate assembly off of it to get the transmission out, because there wasn't enough room to get it, and it just slid by the flywheel there. Now, the flywheel on this car probably needs to be resurfaced, and my father-in-law is going to do that for me if I can get it off. Because it really, those bolts right there are really tight, and I'll probably have to get a flywheel puller maybe to pull it off. I'm not sure. I may have to do a little reading on that to see. But as you can see, the flywheel is actually burnt. There's burn spots on it where the clutch is slipped, and that really needs resurfaced. So anyway, got it out, and I've got to tear the transmission apart now to see what's wrong. Found a bolt head in the oil when I drained it, so I know the linkage, there was just too much play in the linkage, and it sheared that bolt off, and actually hopefully that's the only thing wrong with it. I hope it didn't damage the gears. But anyway, here's your transaxle, transmission, whatever. As you see, this shouldn't be doing that. There's on this shaft, there's a bolt that holds another shaft probably, and it just swings in there, and that's supposed to be shifting gears, and it's not. I may have to replace my throwout bearing there, possibly. I've got a new clutch and pressure plate assembly I'm going to put in it. That's the old one there. But anyway, I'm going to have to actually put this transaxle transmission back in before I put the new clutch in it, because like I said, there's just no space in here to get it in there. I'm going to have a lot of trouble getting that transmission back up and in this thing. It's just going to be a real bear to do, because it just barely fits under the car. I'll have to finagle it around to get it up on a jack so that I could actually jack it back up in here. So it's going to be fun. Can't hardly wait. So the weather did turn off nice though. It was about 39, 40 degrees today. Sun out, a little breezy today, so it was a little cold with the breeze, but other than that, at least we're not having a snowstorm or anything right now. So anyway, I'm getting ready to pack it up for the evening. I'll probably take the flywheel off tomorrow if I can. I need to get some rest now. So, well, that's it for today.